Hi, Daph.
Hi, Patti.
Hi.
We're here with Patti, finally. We've hinted at this. We've been trying to get her on, trying to figure this out, but here we go. It's finally happening. Today is the day. Not like the app I was on for procrastination. That stopped. No longer on Today is the Day. I canceled that subscription.
Wow.
I was on a procrastination app that my dad made me sign up for procrastinators.
Oh.
And they make you do daily work and like.
So you canceled it?
Yeah.
Is that the first thing you didn't?
She wasn't doing it.
You didn't
like,
put off?
It's giving me stress anxiety because I feel like I have to do it, but I don't want to do it. And I'm procrastinating doing it. And I'm like,
the opposite
of the point of doing it.
Well, that worked out well.
Right.
It's the only thing you did right up front. Cancel that shit right now.
It's the only thing I did correctly.
But procrastination, she always gets it done. So
yeah,
it bugs the shit out of her dad, but I don't care. Like,
No.
and honestly, she's 25 years old, so she either does it or doesn't do it. It's
Yeah.
You want to get closer to the microphone?
not up
so you
to
don't
us to
actually hear?
decide
See,
what she does and doesn't.
I'm a doer. I don't put it off to the side. If I don't do it right away, it leaves my brain. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I wish I could do that.
Yeah. So procrastination drives me nuts.
I wish I could do that. Here we are.
Queen of procrastination right here.
Nice.
And we're also here with Carrie, but Carrie's in the background.
Hello.
Yes, Carrie said, I don't want to be involved except for moral support.
Now that we're talking, I might end up getting involved.
Yeah, get closer, pull the chair.
I can't just sit here and not say anything.
Yeah, right. I get that. Okay, so should we just jump in, I guess, to Patti's story?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, we'll preface. We asked for case requests. You sent us a case request. We spent a year and a half trying to find anything we could and couldn't find anything other than what you sent us because they're juvenile offenders, juvenile victims, 1973, all of the things that make it pretty impossible to find anything
Right.
other than what you sent us.
I mean, even the time when it happened, it was buried on like back page stories. It wasn't front page news.
Yeah, no,
The 70s, that stuff didn't make it to the
it was like page 15.
Yeah, and that was just a court case. It wasn't even, that was later. That was,
Right,
you
that
know.
came down the line.
Yeah.
From the events that actually took place.
Yep.
So we just thought, we'll have you on and we'll just let you tell it instead of us trying to continue to find information that is not available.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, and this is, like we just discussed, not known like at all, and it's something that needs to get out there because this shit probably still happens, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. It would be more, I think it would be more front page news than it was back then. They didn't like to air their dirty laundry back in the 70s. Everybody just kind of, put it under the rug, if you will. So
yeah.
Like
it took forever to get the names of what was his name? James Soldier. Was that the kid's name?
No, Danny Johnson.
No. No, the kid, that huge case of that
Oh.
kid. James Soldier, I think, and I think it was in the UK. Might have been here.
Oh.
The kid that was killed by the other kids. The
recent one?
Yeah, the little kid that was abducted, like when he was at the mall with his mom.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I've heard this story.
Turned her back, and then it was like 10, 12-year-olds, something like that, that took him and hurt him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it took forever to find out the names of those kids. They had to steal it, right? Because they had to. Juveniles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't talk about it for a long time until it came.
Right, and in the 70s, we didn't have computerized records. Right?
Yeah.
Everything was hand, written, put in files and tucked away.
Yeah.
So that's easier to destroy than something digital.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to find that stuff. It really is. But you guys, you dug.
Fire.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I looked, and I was just going off the article that you sent us, and I'm like, I can't find anything. Nothing.
Yeah.
Only that article.
Yeah.
And even that was hard to find. Like when I researched it myself, trying to find that article, it was not like you literally put in all the information in Google, and it's like 12 things down.
Yes. Yeah, I've done deep dives. I know my niece, my brother's daughter, has done deep dives, and I'm not sure what she's come up with, but we all, come up empty-handed as far as documentation.
Yeah.
But we do have we lived it. So we know it.
But you lived it, so you know the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was an infant. In 1973, I was like about a year and a half. And are we going in?
Yeah.
All right.
This thing.
So my mom and dad, we were all from Ohio. We moved to, my dad was a Marine. And after he got out of the Marine Corps, we moved to Virginia Beach. And they found their first home. Mom got pregnant. She was all of 18. You know, dad was 22 and had 2 kids and then me. Fast forward to 1973. We lived in Virginia Beach on Virginia Beach Boulevard. It wasn't, you know, everything wasn't overgrown. There wasn't a lot of crime. Everybody had the doors open. It was the 70s. You know, it was awesome. Vietnam War was going on and all that. And that'll come in. So we lived on Virginia Beach Boulevard. It was my mom, my dad, my older sister, and my brother, Tim, and myself. And we lived next to this family, the Johnsons. So Danny Johnson was 11, and he had 2 older brothers. And they're from, I think my mom said they were some backwoods somewhere, West Virginia, I think.
Okay.
And they were pretty rough. He was an abusive alcoholic, and the wife would stand on the porch, staring to nowhere. You know, it was kind of like not there, lifeless.
Yeah.
But a lot of abuse must have gone in that household. So in July, I believe it was July 73, my brother went outside to sit on the doghouse waiting for a haircut. My dad was going to take him out for a haircut. And Danny came over and asked Tim if he wanted to go check out a treasure in the woods. So, you know, Tim was 5. Danny was 11. I'm like, yeah, let's go. He didn't say anything. They just went. And Danny proceeded, they took him back, and then Danny tied him up to a tree. He slit his throat from jugular vein, hit his jugular vein, tried to cut his eyes out, tried to bury him alive, broke his arms, his legs.
Was Danny alone?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just the 2 of them?
Just the 2 of them. And then he just hacked at him. Tim has random scars on his body. It's like he, I think one time we had a conversation where he told me that he remembers trying to hold the knife, and then he remembers seeing like Danny's teeth grinding, and then flashes of blood, and then his teeth grinding, and then yelling. And he says, I think I heard myself screaming. And then he remembered smelling earth. Like, you know how damp, moist earth smells?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
He remembers like the copper taste and earth.
Okay.
And after that, so apparently he put him in a shallow grave and then left him to die. So Danny goes home, gets cleaned up. I honestly...
11 years old.
11 years old. His parents see it, clean him up, bury his clothes in the front yard.
Oh my God.
You know, and all this whole time, my mom is yelling for Tim. They're looking for him. And then our neighbor, Andy, he, Vietnam vet, he just got back from Nam. He was a medic. Thank God.
Yeah.
He was a medic. So he pulled up, and he thought was a dead dog on the side of the road. He was going to move it out off to the side of the road, and he realized it was Tim.
Oh my God.
So he scooped him up, and he took him over to my dad. And then my mom was, you know, yelling in the background. They're like, "Don't show Vicky," you know. I mean, come on, we're moms, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Gail,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we're moms.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, "Don't let Vicky see," or "Don't let Patty see," I'll be damn sure I'm gonna head over there.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So, but he was holding Tim, and my dad asked him, he asked him, "Who did this to you?" And then he said, "Danny." And then, you know, Tim must have blacked out.
What was this time frame of him?
It was within hours.
Within hours? Okay.
Yeah. So somehow Tim likes to say that, you know, he thinks Jesus took him by the hand, or my mom would say they think Jesus took him by the hand and went out of the woods, you know. So he was meant to survive, and you know, at this point, he did survive, but not without trauma. So
yeah, of course.
How
do you walk away from that, like without?
Yeah.
Even that Danny kid, what a fucked up human.
I know, totally. It messed up.
And I mean, this is going to sound shitty, so I'm sorry.
No.
Preface this is so terrible.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's horrible what this kid did, but you got to think about what that kid went through.
Oh, absolutely.
In order to get to that place.
Absolutely.
And
I totally agree with that.
The pre-Danny doing this,
you feel sorry for that kid.
Yeah. Like, what happened?
That day, that all changes. Or whenever he starts doing real shitty stuff.
Yeah, well,
then you don't feel sorry for him.
There's a little bit of backstory there. So they lived right next door. Mm-hmm. My mom would look up, and they'd be standing there looking in the window when she's doing dishes.
Oh,
They broke into our house on around Christmas one time, and destroyed Christmas. They took flour and spread it all over the house. Just totally ransacked the house. Yeah, they put my sister in wicker baskets and put knives in them, and told her if she ever told on them, they would that they would kill Tim. So imagine.
They were told.
No, because
Yeah.
they're
No.
protecting Tim.
Well, yeah, but they still went after
Yeah.
him.
That they did because they're sick.
So
So imagine the guilt and I mean, my sister ended up in drugs and running and just wild as can be, you know, and there was no controlling it. She was devastated. I mean, she is, one of the most protective people you'll ever meet in my life. I mean, ever. Super protective. Now, she'll smack you around a little bit, but she will protect you till no end. No doubt. There's no doubt there. So, but yeah. After that, so they had cadaver dogs come out and do research. They found Danny's clothes. They found the knife, all that stuff buried in the yard. At this point, you know, you'd think the parents would be arrested.
Yeah.
No.
No, of course
No. So they get to the hospital. Tim gets into ICU. He's in ICU for like 6 months.
Oh.
The doctor came out and asked my mom if she had something to do with it.
Are you
Wow.
kidding?
My mom literally threw up on the doctor.
I would too.
Yeah. She was like, how could you think I could do this to my kid? I mean, that's disturbing in itself. The church told her that this happened to her because she was drinking a beer in her backyard.
Oh my God.
So she's trying to go for solace somewhere. She's trying to get, you know, help and reach out emotionally. You know, this is like the worst thing that could happen to somebody.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like you could be, if it happens to you yourself, it's different, but as a parent,
Yeah.
I mean, man, it's crazy. So after that, then they went to trial. So you guys saw the article on the trial.
Yeah.
And Danny went to juvenile detention for about 6 months. And after we have no idea. We did do some research a little later, and both of his brothers were on death row in Virginia Beach at one point.
Wow.
I don't know what happened with Danny, though.
6 months.
He was 11. That's messed up, dude. That's like,
So.
you want to talk about that's disturbing. I mean,
Yeah.
what brings, I mean, you don't have the mental capacity at 11 years old to make those types of decisions. You know what I mean? Unless you come from hate.
Fuckery.
And, fuckery.
Straight up
Hate,
fuckery.
anger, you know, sadism.
Not help.
Absolutely.
Not to be in a juvenile detention. Like we always talk about that the United States
Mm-hmm.
is not about reform.
No.
It's just about detention.
Yeah.
And
The recidivism rate
Yes.
is so high.
Yeah.
There's this TED Talk that I really like. I'm sorry, I was pulling up the email that you sent.
That's okay.
I was going to read the article.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
The article is very telling of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's this TED Talk that I like that talks about the recidivism rate in America, and it's actually from an offender, and he's talking about it and how fucked it is that he's just going to, him and all of his peers, right, like they can get out, but they're just going to be right back there.
Yeah.
Because they don't work on, you know, fixing the problem.
Like, what happened? Like, like obviously, you know, dealing with Danny's own abuse, you know, sexual or physical, mental, there was no love. It was like a cold household. There was no love in that family.
right.
It was all like hate mongering.
Yeah.
And was he sent back to his family then?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know what happened after that. And
You guys left, right?
well, we left. My mom and we went out to the middle of Virginia on a farmhouse. My mom hoarded us out there. She was terrified,
Oh yeah.
you know, and she didn't know if there was going to be retribution with his brothers. She didn't know. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So we lived, and, you know, I think Daphne and I talked about it a couple of times. There's paranormal activity in the farmhouse and all kinds of weird stuff that happened there, too, just all encompassing. It was quite the interesting time. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That is super crazy.
Okay, let me read this article, and then I want to ask you some questions.
Okay.
I'm going to read this article out loud, so excuse my butchering of everything I say.
That's okay.
Okay, so this is, this is like page 15 of a newspaper clipping
Mm-hmm.
that you have, so like not front page news at all, not newsworthy according to whoever published this, right?
Right.
And it's just a little snippet of an article, okay?
Mhm.
Just a little piece, a little section of this piece of paper.
Right.
It's not a byline.
Right?
No.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, just by the way.
Period.
Yeah. Exactly. By the way.
Okay, so sent to home, 11-year-old guilty of slashing friend. Virginia Beach, an 11-year-old boy was found not innocent, not guilty, not innocent,
Jeez.
or
not
guilty,
guilty.
or
Yeah.
guilty,
Yeah.
or not innocent.
Right.
Friday of slashing the throat of a 5-year-old friend near the Chinese corner last month, and was ordered to commit to Tidewater Detention Home until the completion of a background report. That's the first paragraph that we got right there. So we looked up, Mom and I looked into both of these, so that's detention place, and then down here later they talk about another psychiatric place, both like referred to as like homes for kids, right? Like those kinds of things.
Juvenile
they can't
detention.
get any information on them. And the one that they talk about down here, the Chesapeake, that's the one that closed down like the day after. So, but you can't find any.
I don't know why even juvenile offenders are protected.
I don't either. Yeah. Why do they steal minors?
Yeah, because it wasn't just him he affected that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right.
100%.
Yeah, well, and they don't ever say his name. At least, I mean, I've read this several times, right? They don't ever say his name, but they say your brother's name several times.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's a friend.
Yeah, which is not a friend.
Never was.
Yeah.
Right? They weren't friends. Neighbors.
Yeah.
So it says, Juvenile Court Judge Kenneth N. Whitehurst Jr. said he sent the youth to the home because, quote, this is one of the most serious crimes ever brought before this court, end quote. The boy had been released from the holding facility shortly after the June 6th incident when a psychiatrist said he was no danger to himself or others. Wow. According to testimony Friday, the older boy attacked Timothy without
Provocation.
Yeah, sorry, word. While the two boys played in the woods off of Nelms Lane.
Played in the woods.
Well, they played, not while he was lured out there
Right.
by treasure.
Right.
Timothy of the 5200 block of Virginia Beach Boulevard testified that his playmate suddenly pulled out a knife and slashed his throat and hands with it. After the attack, Timothy said he was dragged to another spot in the woods and left there. The little boy was hospitalized for more than a week. Police said with a 4-inch gash on his throat, a broken arm, and wounds on his hands and wrists. Not mentioning, hey, we asked Mom if she was involved or not.
Right.
More than a week.
Yes.
6 months.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He was in the ICU.
Yeah.
Here's his
Way different
name and
reporting.
address.
Yes. So if you want to victimize him again, please
Right.
feel
Or
free.
if you want to go fuck with the family because you don't agree with the detention for the 11-year-old friend.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Oh my God, it's horrible.
The suspect denied Timothy's account and testified that Timothy had been attacked by 3 other boys who suddenly attacked them in the woods. Attacked them.
Yeah.
After the boy was not found innocent of malicious assault, he began screaming in the courtroom and struggled briefly with a bailiff who led him to a juvenile lockup. Judge Whitehurst, in committing the youth detention facility in Chesapeake, delayed disposition of the case until probation officials prepare a background report. He had originally been sent to Chesapeake facility for psychiatric evaluation following a hearing June 7th before the juvenile court. Frederick R. Ocamp got cut off, sorry. The state prosecutor said that in such a severe case where the attack was unprovoked, there may be an emotional problem.
Maybe. It could be. I mean, who knows?
That was the reporting on this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they did no protection of the victim and all protection of the assailant.
Yeah. Well, it ties back to, people want to, there's all those fucked up people in this world that will call victims' houses and be like, it's the phone book time. You could have looked up your family's info, but like, oh, they live on this street. This is their name.
Yeah.
I can find them so easily.
Right.
Call them and fuck with them now.
Yeah. No, luckily my mom just decided that we needed to move. Yeah. We needed to move, so we did, and she hoarded us for a little while. We didn't go anywhere. She had to heal. Tim had to heal. I mean, we had, after Tim's recovery, we had great times as a family. If anything, it helped us kind of bond. It's a common bond between us all. Like, Tim would have night terrors, and that was tough because he would scream in the middle of the night, and we couldn't wake him up. We couldn't. There's nothing we could do. He would go into these fits where he would hyperventilate, and there would, I'd walk out from my room and think that my mom and dad were having a disco party because I loved to disco dance, and it was the ambulance. The medic, the EMTs were there, and he was full-blown panic attack, and he was hyperventilating so much where his joints were contorted, and it was brutal. It was brutal to watch. Yeah, and it would happen frequently. He had a lot of repercussions from the attack, and then we had a lot of emotional stuff going on, you know, in our house from that day forward. And then it still goes on. I mean, I'm shaking now. Like it's something that just, it's kind of, it's deep. It's in there. We grew up with this.
Yeah, right.
My mom was always scared, and, you know, like she would let us go out and play because she wanted us to try and have a normal, you know,
right.
childhood. And we would go and play and outside and stuff, but always had a buddy system. We always had to check in. It was always like,
how are you not fearful after that?
Yeah.
How could you not be? Right?
Yeah. She always taught us girls,
helicopter parent mode.
Yeah. And well, my sister rebelled. I mean, my older sister rebelled. It was so hard on her. You know, she had her emotional grief and her baggage on top of all that. And then you try and, you know, as a parent, you just want to protect everything. Like 100%. I think we all understand it more now. I mean, for me personally, I didn't want to have kids. I wasn't going to have kids. And then I got pregnant with my son, and I had nightmares, and I was terrified. Like, a lot of people talk about their pregnancies, and it was like, oh, I loved being pregnant. And I'm like, that was really, really hard for me because I didn't want to go through that. Because I didn't want, you know, in your mind, something's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so.
Right. How do I protect you? You have to protect her person.
Yeah. So I had night terrors. I mean, my night terrors were horrible with Eli, because my son, because I would have dreams that somebody was chasing me, and then I would have the baby and they would break its neck right in front of me. I mean, these are stress dreams. Like, I was standing at the bus stop one time. I was pregnant with Eli, and I ran out to the curb to catch the bus, and the bus took off my pregnancy belly, like killed my son instantly. I mean, and there was dreams like that, like on and on and on. And it's just one of those things where nobody knows what kind of stress and fear
like
you live with.
Trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, it does. And, you know, processing everything. And I was just an infant.
Yeah.
You know, Tim's done a fantastic job. He played soccer in high school, you know, state champion wrestler. He just lived to the fullest. You know, he was amazing. Ornery as shit. I mean, he was ornery as shit. The guy, this kid's still ornery to this day. I mean, he's 50-some years old, and he is the most ornery guy, you know. He's fantastic. But I think one time we had moved from the farm finally, and I think I was 4 or 5, and we moved to Virginia Beach, right down from one of the Air Force bases. And we could hop the fence and go over to the grocery store or whatever. So Mom sent us over for a gallon of milk. We had to be together, of course. Yeah. But, like, send us over for something at the store, and then we're standing in line getting ready to leave, and Tim turns like 5 shades of white, like ghostly. And he dropped everything, and he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Don't ask me questions, just run." So we ran. I don't even know how we got across Virginia Beach Boulevard without getting killed or hit by a car. But we got home, and then finally he locked the doors, and he told me that Danny was in line.
Oh, God. Wow.
At the grocery store. And
horrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember that as like, oh my God, to just go, because when Tim says go, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you're just saying it, and I'm like,
I know. I'm like, I'm literally shaking.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was, you know.
Yeah.
Because there was no protection order for Tim.
No.
From this guy, they didn't
get
rid of him. They didn't get rid of the family.
No. And I don't know if he's ever seen him again, but I know that when we got home, he was terrified, and I was terrified because he was scared.
Yeah.
You know, and he ended up studying karate, taekwondo. He was a black belt. He can defend himself now. I mean, he's all of 5'3". There was some, you know, the injuries and stuff with growth plates when he was a kid and stuff like that. But yeah, it was trauma.
Yeah.
From infancy up, like in fear. Yeah.
So how old were you when you learned about it?
Well, it was always something that was in our house. The story went around. I mean, there was always like our parents, my grandparents and stuff would come over, and they're like, "How's Tim doing?" and stuff like that. So I kind of always known. You know, there was no protection of the story because we lived it.
Yeah.
You know, and then the funny thing was Tim was held back a couple years in high school, and we ended up going to high school together, which was fun. We got to, you know, well, fun and not fun, because he would totally be in my space, like.
Oh, yeah.
Who you see? Why are you dating him? You're not allowed to do that. But, you know, protect her.
Right. older brother.
Total older brother. But, now he's 4 years older, so he would have been graduating by the time he even got into school. But we ended up being 2 years apart in school. And we'd go to parties together, and you look over, and he would be pulling down his shirt collar with a couple girls around him, and he'd be like, "Oh, Timmy," and we were like, gross. So, yes, let me show you, I am a survivor. He's pretty funny. He's a cool guy. But
that's good.
Yeah.
And it sucks for your sister. Like you said, she had guilt. She didn't ever say anything about it.
Yeah.
Because she was afraid things would happen.
Yeah. Well, and then, there's the fact too where, she's guilt ridden. She's a teenager. You're growing up in the middle 70s, you know what I mean? And my dad had to work, my mom worked long hours, double shifts, just to make bills.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long it took them to pay off the medical bills.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because insurance wasn't the same back then as, you get coverage now. But, so my parents had to do what they had to do so we could eat.
Right.
I mean, one time I think my mom saved her tip money from the restaurant, and in jars she put dimes, nickels, and quarters, and she bought Christmas one year, on that. It was brutal. So my sister ended up having to take care of me. She was my caregiver.
Okay.
Which was not.
How old was your sister at the time?
When
the attack happened.
So Tim was 5, Sissy was 7.
Okay. 2 years older than
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So.
5.5 years older than you.
6 years. Yeah, about 6 years older than me. Yeah. 5.5. That's good. Yeah. So yeah, she ended up being my caregiver.
Okay.
And, with her abuse from her mental capacity, came my abuse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she was a teenager. She had to be an instant mom, and, my mom was trying to do everything she could,
Right.
to make ends meet, my dad. And, she became a little abusive. She was on drugs, and it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. And the.
She's still around?
Sissy?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, she is. She's, I've just, this past 3 years, I've been processing everything. And there was times where I was super mad at her and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. And she asked me one time if I blamed her for my trauma and stuff in my life. And you say, well, yeah, but it's not her. It was, honestly, it was Danny all those years ago. It was the trauma that happened to our family that we'll never know a normal family. Like my poor son, he was born into anxiety.
Yeah.
And I created his anxiety from my anxiety. You pass it down from generation to generation. And luckily my daughter has a completely different mom than my son did, because I was terrified when I had him.
Yeah.
So, and that was hard. That was really hard because he's a great kid, and I have guilt. I have parental guilt.
What is their age gap?
8 years.
8 years. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Because one was it. I was too scared.
Yeah.
I did not want to have any more kids. But, my husband's like, come on, please. And I'm like, okay, dude, you got 4 weeks.
One more.
And then I'm going to start bodybuilding again or whatever. You have 4 weeks to get this done. And then we have beautiful Tori, and she knows of my fear because I'm more vocal with it than Eli did. And so she understands where I'm coming from. Like, the cool part about her is that she doesn't have the anxiety that I did with Eli. And when she's getting ready to go somewhere, she's like, I know all the rules, Mom. It's okay. And she's very comforting, and it's quite amazing.
Aw, I love that.
It's
so
really
it was a
cool.
different experience being pregnant with her.
Yeah.
Did you have time in the interim to process? Like, did you realize that you were doing this to? Not that I'm saying, Patty, why did you?
No. Yeah, I'm trying to.
I get it. Like, yeah.
Yes, it was.
I wanted to have 12 kids.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have none.
Yeah.
And so we compromised. And we had Daff. But yeah, when I was when I was pregnant with her, because I had childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And a shit mom. And so I was like, God, can I be a mom? Am I
exactly
good at it? And then I don't know how to be a mom. She's very good.
So I think I don't have any other ones.
But like when I was pregnant with her, like I was like it was cool and I was excited to like have her inside. Like when you know, you see her elbow go across your belly and you're like, whoa, that's fucking cool. You know? But like when she was gonna be born, I was like freaking out.
Yeah.
Because now
I have to
take care of her now, and I have to parent, and
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah.
And I remember when they were coming to get me out of the hospital because I ended up having a C-section because Procrastination Nation was due on November 22nd, and
Really
I had
fast.
an emergency C-section on December 4th.
Yeah. It's been a while later.
Yeah.
It started from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're like I had to stay, not as long as they wanted me to, so I wanted to leave. But anyway, that was a different story.
Yeah.
But they're coming to get me out of the hospital, wheeling me out, and I'm holding her and I'm crying.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm scared to take her home."
Yeah.
You know. So
So
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
If you had that in between time to like.
I did, yes. So to answer your question, yes, I definitely did. I had more time to process through that, like it's going to be okay. So my pregnancy with Tori was very chill.
No nightmares.
No nightmares.
Well, and you also lived 8 years as a mom.
Yes,
Taking
knowing
care of Eli
and
knowing you were doing a good job and you were.
or was I riddling him with anxiety and and fear, because I think I put all my fear and anxiety into him.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, being a mom of I did not have trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I felt a lot of those things also. So I think, but I mean, not to minimize your traumas and stuff like that, but I think I could be wrong, but I feel like all moms.
Oh yes, have a fear.
Something.
Mm-hmm.
Like
My mom didn't.
no, you're.
Mom could give two fucks.
How about this all healthy mom?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's totally healthy and nobody's mentally 100% healthy.
We refer to my mom as the incubator.
Yeah.
Because that was her role.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah. Is it?
I mean,
It is what it is.
I mean, we can go in a whole different direction here, Gail.
Life is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fine.
it's all a learning process.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
When you're a mother.
Yeah.
You know, and then to battle extreme trauma.
Yeah.
Along with it.
Yeah.
And coming out on the other side where you have your kids that are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you gave them a little anxiety and some of your stuff, but it's like all about getting past that and getting this next generation to have less anxiety.
Right.
Talking it through.
Yeah. The normal conversations in our household, because I'm a psychopath, is you know, it's like every time Eli was going to go do something, I'm like, make good choices. You know, be aware of your surroundings. Know who you're with. Who are you going with? I want to know where you're going to be and how long you're going to be there. Luckily, I have a husband who's fantastic and very, very involved. And he was always taking the kids out, like always going out and playing, like not letting them go out in the fields by themselves or the woods by themselves. He was one of the kids himself. He would go out and he'd be there. You know what I mean? So it helped be a little bit for Eli to have a little freedom. But, you know, I can't remember how old Eli's was when I told him about Tim, because he needed to know where my fear and anxiety was coming from.
Right.
And to put that mental image in such a young kid's mind is so sad, but so, in my mind, needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the fear that you have with your kids is, I mean, ours is like amplified.
Yeah.
You know, because when he was 5, I swear something was going to happen to him. And that was like, okay, he made it through his 5th birthday, you know, and then at 8, he was in a car accident. And I'm like, fuck, here we go. I'm going to lose him. And you kind of manifest that. But, you know, now he's 21. He has a lot of anxiety and a lot of issues himself. I mean, he was also, when I gave birth to him, he was blue when he came out. So I thought I was going to lose him then. Emergency C-section. They strapped me down to a board. I was hyperventilating, so they had to put me under. It was trauma after trauma after trauma. And now that he's 21 and we just discovered mushrooms and life again, and it doesn't have to be fear and anger all the time. It's it can be love and joy. I think he's coming around, and he's a beautiful boy. He's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough to see him go through stuff. But
so I want to ask you, your husband, knowing what your fear was going into having a child, how did he help you through that? Like you said that he was really a great parent.
Yeah.
But like the whole let's have babies.
Yeah, that was scary. He's so supportive. He is like, I mean, we've been together since I was 14.
Wow.
I mean, we had some breakups. You know, we had our breakups, but he's the whole reason I met him is through my brother. My brother brought him home. I saw him in a field one day, and he was playing softball with his family, and my cousin and Ivy, were walking, and we were like, oh my God, who is that? And he was like glowing. He was in the outfield, and he was still glowing, you know. And then, you know, a few days later, my brother brought him home. I'm like, oh my God, Ivy, that's the guy.
You're like, that's him.
That's him. And then, you know, him and Tim has been friends forever, and he knew our fear, so he's just so amazing.
Awesome. So you guys have changed stuff. That's for damn sure.
I mean, yeah, we've had our ups and downs, and we had our bumpy roads, but I mean, we've had our breakups, you know, when we were younger, but knowing so much about our family and being ingrained in our fibers as long as he has, like, he gets more emotional than I do when we try and talk about it with other friends. You know what I mean? Like, why do you have this anxiety? Like I say, I have social anxiety, and they're like, why do you have this anxiety? And there's always a backstory. You know, everybody has a story, right? I'm sober from alcohol for 13 years. Because,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was just it. Like, back in the day, my fear was managed with alcohol. I mean, I'm sure all my friends can tell you, holy shit, if you want to party, let's go to Patty's house. So, yeah, it was, and then, you know, then you had to work through that shit when you get sober. Because you can't, you know, self-medicate anymore. So, but yeah, it's been a journey, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and your self-medicating is also, like, I don't know, kind of punishing yourself in a way.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, there was eating disorders and alcoholism, and I went into a healthier aspect of it, but it was still an addiction. You know, I went into not just working out. I had to compete. I had to be on a strict regiment, or I was floundering. You know,
and so that's a sense of control.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I have to control everything.
Absolutely.
And when I can't control it, I'm just going to drink.
Yeah. And then I don't have to control it.
Right.
Somebody else is going to drive me because I've, you know, luckily I wasn't a big drinking drunk driver. You know what I mean? I was always had somebody else was either going to drink and drive.
Well, thank God you had, because it's a control thing.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, I'm going to really get fucked up.
Or I'm not.
But
yeah,
somebody's going to be here for me.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't just like willy-nilly getting fucked up.
No. Well, maybe we did, like, between ages, you know, well, I smoked my first joint when I was 7. My sister, you know, was going out, and I caught her. So she took me out with her, and, you know, that's the kind of life we had, you know.
So is your sister clean now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she got clean. She has some medical issues, but, yeah, she's doing really well.
Okay.
Yeah, she's doing really well. I think she's finally started to go through therapy and get some help on her end.
And your mom and dad?
Not so much. You know, back in, you know, the boomers, everything was hardcore. You didn't talk about it. You just moved past it. You know, there's times where I try and talk to mom, and she'll be like, I just don't want to talk about this again. Let's just leave this alone.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all going, we need to talk about this.
Right.
And my dad, he doesn't say much. You know, every now and again you'll see him reading his Bible or hanging out, but he's that quiet, you know, I'm going to lead with a forceful hand, and I'm going to provide for my family.
Yeah.
You know, he's quite amazing too. My dad's pretty awesome.
I mean, it sounds like they did everything they could and they should.
Yeah.
In the 70s.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Because now everything is so different.
Oh yeah. I mean, people will be reaching out with all kinds of help now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know, like there's PTSD programs and all kinds of stuff, but not back then. I mean, even the veterans coming back from the war. They didn't have that type of
No support.
support. Yeah. It's a just different time.
Mm-hmm.
But you still see the residual. I mean, I'm sitting here now and I still shake because,
Right.
There's.
I have the residual of her childhood stuff. Sorry. No, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like I'm working through it. I'm in therapy. I go to therapy once a week. I have for like a year.
Yeah.
At this point. I mean, I've gone and off for the last 10 years, but the last year has been very, very, very consistent in my life, and that has a lot to do with the cutoff of the incubator. That was 2 years last year. 2 years ago. Yeah, we finally were like, "Oh, fuck you, we're done with you. Like, we actually don't need you in our lives. Like, we're good. We're not your money bags."
Gotcha.
we're not your money bags, and that was the whole thing.
Yeah. How did that feel for you, Gail?
Relief.
The final cutoff,
Relief.
like of the trauma,
relief.
Yeah.
Like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But she every time she called, they live out of state. Her and her husband, they live out of state, and so every time she called, my mom would be like, "I'm gonna answer the phone." She's like, "Can you deal with her? See what she wants. You call her back, or whatever." And I mean, you managed for my sake because she's a terrible mom, and she showed up to try to be a grandma, but she did okay as a grandma. I mean, a lot of it was from a user standpoint that she was looking to have this relationship with me to get something financially out of my parents, right?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of our issue, but she did okay as a grandma, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going way off.
but it's all relative. I mean, trauma, the severity of the trauma, I'm not sure your story, Gail, but the severity of the trauma is there. And you have that trauma regardless. And it's all cyclical. I mean, we're all in the same, realm, if you will. And it's like your trauma to you is the same magnitude as my trauma to me. You know what I mean? No, don't discount yourself because it creates that anxiety and fear and depression and the feeling of it's just you're not ever going to be able to give enough to conquer that. There's always
different.
Yeah, it's like I look at moms who let their kids run around our neighborhood and I'm like, wow, I would love to do that. I would love to be able to say, go ride your bike, be a kid, have a great time. And when Tori left to go to the park one day with her friends, I'm like, is there going to be a supervisor there? Who's with you?
Right.
Do I need to go? You know what I mean? Instantly, and it's like, it's scary, but it all comes from the same place, that fear and anxiety.
Right. Well, and just to go back to that generational thing, all that stuff happens all the time. We just don't know about it.
Right.
Because now you get an Amber Alert when something happens. You get right away, you know when things happen.
Yeah.
And, because everybody's always like, well, nowadays. It's like, no.
Yeah.
People have always been fucked.
Yeah.
We just know about it now.
Yeah.
We didn't know about it before.
Amber Alert set me on a fear path.
Did you guys hear about
the one that just happened?
The one that just happened, and it was the guy, his car got stolen.
Yeah.
It wasn't even his niece that he reported. It was some random girl that he showed the picture to the police, or he said that his car got stolen with his niece in it. A little bit of backstory to this. I know the Amber Alert, I saw it, but I don't know the backstory. See, the other night we all the local
that was
Amber Alert that went off. And it was a picture of, she was 13
years old. She was in the car.
Yeah,
the car got stolen.
The car got stolen, yeah. They gave her description, whatever. They were very blurred out pictures of the man.
Then
CCTV footage.
They found the car, and the girl's gone.
Yeah, they found the car, and the girl's gone.
Yeah, and now is that kind of stuff.
But the girl, she wasn't really, she used that to find the car.
What the fucker?
Because there was no.
He needs to go to jail because
he is going to be.
Good. He needs to get prosecuted.
He said that his car had been stolen before, and that he
that the police didn't really do anything, and so that's why this time she was like, my niece is in the car, and she didn't even know the girl's picture that he used, this random picture.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
that
why
he
that
needs.
Can you
was a
imagine
story.
if you so
The trigger for
right,
me.
that's what I'm saying. Like
Right.
you and say you use Tori's picture.
I'm gonna.
You know, and you're like, oh my god, my kid was in this car. I didn't even know she was in this car, and now she's missing.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
whoever's picture that was, their parents or aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatever, are like, oh my god, yeah, that's fucked
Well,
up.
and you.
I almost want to sue this guy.
I know,
for,
right? Well, right.
Yeah.
And this is, the point of immediacy that we know the shit that's
The
happening.
Amber Alert came out in what, the 80s, late 70s, 80s, something like that.
I think it was a little later because
Was that
that little girl Amber that.
in Texas?
Yep.
Yeah, and it was the milk cartons were like the first thing.
The milk cartons were the first thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that was always, we were always scared to go out in the neighborhood too because watch for vans because of the big child abductor vans. You know what I mean? That was
White creeper van.
white creeper van. That was going on in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Too. So
Scary.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you,
Yeah.
when we had chatted about this before, you told me about an experience your mom had
Which.
when she was working with them.
The
When she was
restaurant.
working, and then
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I left this out.
I'm like, this is a pretty
So,
big piece of story. Were you doing that?
we were. Yeah. So my mom did. I know. There's so many stories. No. We would go and have breakfast. My mom worked for a waffle shop, and she worked double shifts and stuff like that. And they came into her station one time, and they sat, and she had to wait on them.
After?
Yeah, after. And they're sitting, and I hope they get the story right, because my mom, her boss was like, I'll take it. And she's like, no, I got this. Because we're badasses. Us Brotherton women are badasses. And she walked over, and they're like, you look familiar. And she was like, okay, well, your son. Yeah. And she said, did our boys know each other or something like that? And she was oblivious. The mom was oblivious.
You guys were neighbors.
Yeah. And my mom, finally, she took the order and walked away, and she's like, I can't do this.
I can't. Yeah.
She was like, I can't wait on them. But the mom had no recollection of who she was at all.
So fucked up.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you guys lose track of this family?
I think we just started living. We had to start living. I think when we moved off the farmhouse and into this house in Virginia Beach, it's always there, but I think my mom wanted to just put it behind her altogether. I think it was my sister and myself. We tried to kind of figure out where they were. I mean, the last time that I saw Danny was with Tim.
Yeah.
That time at the grocery store. And I don't even think I saw him, honestly. It was more like took Tim's word for it and just took off. Yeah. So, but yeah, brutal stuff.
Yeah. I was just wondering, because, you hear of people keeping track of their abusers.
Yeah.
Or somebody.
Well, I do know.
Somebody keeping tabs, like
yeah.
They're here now, like you said, that the two brothers were
on death row, which was always a little consoling for us, knowing that the other.
What happened to him?
Yeah, exactly.
And where'd the parents go?
Right, exactly.
Where did they all go?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure they're maybe passed on by now. I mean, raging alcoholic like that, I'm sure he didn't survive long.
Yeah, the dad.
Yeah. But hopefully.
Yeah.
You can only, you don't want to wish that on anyone, but.
Right, but yeah.
But we had to start living, and we, it was always with us. We lived in fear, we lived in trauma.
Yeah.
And we got through it as a family. So, kudos, good for us.
Yeah.
Hoorah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But I should tell you that my brother did go into the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And he was discharged because of night terrors.
Oh.
He also had something physical that was wrong with him, but mentally, the Marine Corps breaks you down, and then builds you back up, and they got that deep, and his night terrors started again and stuff like that, and then he had an injury, so they had to discharge him from the Marine Corps.
He healed through that through the Marine Corps portion of his life?
Yeah, I think so. My mom often worries sometimes because he has memory issues. But, it could be a long-term effect, later in his life. But, he just moves forward. He's a trooper. Yeah, he's quite amazing. He's got an autistic son, and my niece, she's married now with a kid and one on the way. I mean, he's done well.
That's good.
Yeah.
So. Good. Yeah, because definitely could have gone the other way.
Oh yeah, it could have gone completely the other way.
Yeah.
But he ended up being a protector, not an offender. So.
Good.
Yeah.
He was one of the people who knew that there are no do-overs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a second chance, even though he's 5.
Yeah.
Somewhere in his brain, he's like, okay,
I'm gonna do this.
I'm gonna make the
right.
result.
Yeah. And I got a cool story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It helped him get all the ladies.
My survivor story.
Yeah. Here, let me show you. And you're like, oh, Timmy. Ugh. Whatever.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Sharing your story, your brother's story, your family's story.
Thank you for having me. It's, sometimes it's nice to talk about, and then sometimes you just don't.
Right. Can be therapeutic.
Yeah.
Can also not be.
Yeah.
Okay, really quickly though, ghost stories.
Oh. Okay, so in the farm, I think let's backtrack there. So my mom, when we were at the old farmhouse in Virginia, my mom would tell stories of, she called the ghost Clyde.
Okay.
Yeah, she knew for some reason it was a male ghost that was a prankster. So they would do stuff like she would turn TVs off and they would come back on, or she would leave a room and a fan would turn on that she just turned off. And then there was one time she walked into the bathroom and she was going to take some baby aspirin, because my mom does not take anything but baby aspirin or whatever. So she was going to take some baby aspirin, and the chewable kind, the pink ones when we were kids. So she had 2 of those sitting on the counter next to a glass of water, and then she heard somebody call her name. She thought was my brother, so she left the bathroom, checked on Tim or whatever, and then came back, and the 2 tablets were dissolving underneath the water. The cup was turned upside down on top of them.
Wow.
So, and then, so there was all kinds of weird happenings, and my mom could tell you more, but there was some former protector, I guess, that was with her all the time.
I was going to say, it sounds like it might have been spooky, obviously, weird at the time.
Yeah.
But it almost sounds like maybe he was there to bring some joy.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a little bit.
Distraction.
Well,
yeah,
then we moved into the Virginia Beach house. And so we had one of those houses. It was a rancher style, and all 3 of the bedrooms were in the back together. So the doors touched. So it was like a semicircle. My mom was sitting on her bed with her mother, and my sister was in her room, in our room. And my grandma said to my mom, "Hey, I think Kim just left." My sister, right? And then 3 seconds later, Sissy's screaming at the top of her lungs. My mom and grandma run into the bedroom, and her blanket is above her. And as they walked in, it fell. And Sissy was terrified.
Yeah.
So, I know.
Me too. I'm like, I wouldn't like that.
No. Yeah, so, and I don't know what Sissy was into. She could have been doing Ouija boards or, that kind of stuff. She was always into like witchcraft and stuff. And because we grew up right around Pungo and that kind of stuff, witches of Pungo, where they had a lot of burnings of witches and stuff like that. So she was all into that stuff too. So who knows what that was?
Right.
So.
I'm channeling something.
I know, right? And I had an experience once here in Colorado. I moved into a house that had a girl committed suicide in the house that I live in. And I had it cleansed, guys. And I have crystals in every corner, so I had a seer come in. It was all kinds of cool stuff. But I had a dream because I was terrified that the residual energy was in the house. And I didn't want it to affect my kids. Again, fear. Whatever. But I had a dream that Sarah came to me in the dream, and she literally told me it was an accidental drug overdose. So she had taken a medication and another medication that didn't mix well, and she died in the bathtub.
Oh.
I don't know if that's true, you guys. I don't know what, that was just in my dream. But when I woke up, I was relieved that she wasn't like suicidal, you know, and like trauma caused her to kill herself. Because she was fun-loving. I did research on her. She was fun-loving. She loved animals. She worked for animal shelters. She drove a motorcycle. She was pretty cool. She was super cool. But she came to my dream and it eased my mind instantly. Like, I'm like, okay, we can stay here. Yeah. But haven't had any other experiences since that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good, I guess, right?
I guess.
Maybe?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with, I have enough going on. I have a hard time staying on the reality plane as it is. I don't need to go anywhere else. Thank you very much. But,
all right, you got any other questions, Mama?
I don't. I mean, I will later, I'm sure.
I know, right?
But
you can always text them.
yeah.
Hit me up.
Yeah.
Or we can do part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fun. You two are starting a podcast.
Yes.
Yes.
Eventually.
Oh, yes.
So, like I said, you know, with all this journey with diving deep in my PTSD, and it manifested really bad one time, and my son was on the brink of suicide, and not to tell his story, but anxiety so bad where he would have panic attacks before he'd leave the house, like so bad where he was shaking and throwing up. And like, I was like, we were going to a company dinner, like he was invited with me to go, we were going to go meet everybody for happy hour with our office. And we got there and he threw up and he's like, I can't go in. And so we had to leave. I'm like, it's okay.
How old was he?
18, 19, right in there. He just graduated high school and, you know, he was a COVID kid. You know, he graduated during the whole COVID thing. It was like, right as,
imagine.
Yeah. So, you know, it took him off the soccer field and all that stuff. So when that came to par, I needed to find something natural to help us both.
Yeah.
And Kava Kava was the first thing I started. You've been to the Kava bar with us.
Yeah. Love it.
And it helped with the calmingness. But I needed something more because he was starting on, you know, Western medications, so hard ones that made him feel numb and nothing at all. And he didn't like that. So I started looking into psychedelic mushrooms. So went into the psychedelic mushroom realm and I started growing and we started testing it on ourselves. It's been miraculous. So
and it's legal in Colorado.
It's decriminalized. It is legalized now for therapy to use psychedelic for therapists to prescribe and do psychedelic therapy with their patients. So it's legal on that front. That just became legal this year. It's illegal to sell. You can gift them. You can, you know, talk about them. You can take them. You can grow them yourself. And that's what I started doing. I started growing, and then
non-habit forming too.
Non-habit forming, and it's out of your system in 48 hours. But it's mind altering, which is amazing.
In a joyful way.
In a joyful way, because it helps you process and take away the PTSD feelings with something. It severs that tie. You can still have the memory, but it severs that trigger.
Okay.
To an extent. So I got Eli on it, and then now Carrie and I have we're over 50. Our kids are grown. We have anxiety, and we're like, what do we do with it?
Through menopause.
I mean, it goes all of it. I mean,
all changes of life. Like our kids are getting older.
Yeah. What's our purpose?
What's our purpose?
Yeah.
And Patty
and I taking care of your mom.
Mom, dad.
Mom, dad,
husband. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and, you know, we work in a high anxiety industry, you know? You get anybody said dentist. Anybody said dentist, that's like, you know.
Yeah.
So we work in a high anxiety field. So we decided that we're going to do a podcast eventually. We're getting there. It's Fungi Over 50. You know what I mean? We're over 50 years old. We're microdosing mushrooms. We're feeling joy again, feeling like life is okay and we can live again. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we're having a great time.
No, that's the way life should be.
Yeah, we're having a great time. And it's been amazing. So Fungi Over 50 is coming soon.
All right.
Well,
Yay.
as soon as it does, we'll
for
put
it.
a link, and our 3 listeners will.
Yay! Then we'll have 6.
Deanna, Lindsay, and Lindsay. You guys.
Yeah. I do have my sticker.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yay.
So I'm a supporter. Didn't bring that water bottle.
All right, yay. So as soon as Fungi Over 50 comes out,
Yep.
we will link it.
Yeah, we might have to have you help us actually get it online because we don't know what we're doing.
I should be talented. Sorry if this audio sounds like shit. And sorry the last one sounded like shit. And the one before that I think was better, at least once it came online. But listening to it through the computer sounded like shit. Yeah. So sorry in advance. We're going to figure that out. All the techie issues.
First world problems. So.
Yes, absolutely.
No freaking
100%.
kidding. No freaking kidding. All right. Well, thank you two for joining us today.
Thank you.
guys so
Thanks
much.
for sharing everything.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for
Thank you.
ripping off a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only get emotional nowadays when I have to talk about my kids from my trauma.
Yeah.
You know, the other stuff is, that's just part of my life. Yeah, part
right.
of the regular day life.
Yeah.
But when you see it affect generation after generation, it's got to stop somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully that's with Tori.
Yeah.
Because she's cool.
Yeah. Eli will get there.
Even
too,
Eli.
I mean, Eli's amazing. He's getting there, and he's got some work to do.
We guys are healing together.
Yeah, and that's what's cool because his friend came over one time, and he was like, "I really wish my mom and dad would talk to me about it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of take accountability for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that Eli and I came even ground was when I told him, I'm just a person that's a mom.
Yeah.
So I make mistakes.
Right.
And he was like, thank you for saying that because I don't think I've ever heard you say that before. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
On that note.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to jump off here. You can find us at That's Disturbing Podcast on Instagram and send us a case request there. Or, if you like, nobody sends us a Gmail, except for Patty did. That's Disturbing Podcast at gmail.com. And there's no longer a website, so don't even worry about that.
Not bitter.
All right, you're not bitter at all. Bye.
Bye.